Alright guys, so I've been covering a couple of games recently. We did the first Descendant, then we did a couple of other games after that. Just checking out some of these games that seem to have a lot of potential behind themselves. Games that seem like they're trying to bring back the value of older gaming and where gaming should be by now. And of course we know you have these woke socialists, these woke ideologues. They're going out of their way to completely take over and possess the industry, the gaming industry. And of course we're watching as feminism has completely taken over all of gaming, all of movies, all of television. We're here now. So we're seeing how the entire industry has been taken over. We're seeing how the quality of these products has severely diminished. Go look at older games. They were funnier. They had more soul. This is a huge issue with a lot of modern games. They don't have soul. A game recently that came out that there's some criticisms to be had, and I will be making a review for it, or at least an impressions video, and that is Black Myth Wukong. That game came out. It was pretty good. Overall, there's a lot of things that are good about the game. There's a lot of things that are severely lacking about the game, though, as well. So anyways, right here we have Clair Obscur Expedition 33. This is a first look at the gameplay, so I'm interested in seeing, because, we saw a trailer and I was like, wow, that's a lot of attractive, beautiful white women. Dang, we don't get that anymore, right? We have to keep on seeing ugly people, ugly women specifically. Seems like the woke, they don't have anything wrong with attractive men. The issue they really have are attractive women. Of course, women are not attractive. Then what kind of man wants to procreate with women? And really what you end up having, it's a weird form of like anti-natalism or something. Whatever it is, these freaking wokies, these freaking feminists, they don't want you attracted to women. They don't want you as a man to desire having sex with women and then to ultimately reproduce with these women. They don't want you to have that. They want to popularize muscle women, masculine women, women who look like dudes, dudes who might be women. They want to popularize these things. They don't want us to have beautiful women in games and beautiful women in general. They want them eradicated. So anyways, especially beautiful white women. So let's do this. And let's hope that this is not too loud. So far this is interesting, by the way. So I guess we're underwater, right? It's kind of cool. It's a little bit loud. Has really good graphics, as a lot of things nowadays do.
'68. Elodie's expedition.
You know the commanders of every expedition.
Expedition 68. Their boat was blown into the air by a storm. Lumiere lost sight of it, but assumed they crashed on the continent.
And they survived. The storm, at least.
All right, let's keep moving. We found the weird corals. Mael must be close by.
Wait. Everyone. Looks like a different species.
Doesn't matter. They're between us and Mael.
You know what's weird about this game? It really gets a weird kind of I don't think it's like Final Fantasy. No, I don't. Unless I just listen, bro. There's 15. Oh, now no. I mean, there's 16 mainline Final Fantasy games. I have no idea what most of them are. I've only played a few of them. So anyway, this gives me a lot of Child of Light vibes. the appeal and the nature of this world and of the villains, of the characters overall, or well, the enemies here, you look at the kind of the ambiance, the atmosphere of this game, and it really does, it feels like the Child of Light. It feels like it's made in the same vein, the kind of same nature of that game. Now, I don't know if these are the same developers. That game came out like 10 years ago now, a long time ago. It's a really old game. No, I think it's actually 12 years now. Anyways, long time ago that game came out. It was a great game, beautiful music. I actually really liked The Child of Light. It was a weird game, and there was, I played it in part because there wasn't a lot of games available at that time. It was at the beginning of the Xbox One generation, and there's barely any games. I even played Guacamelee, that game, if you remember that. Yeah, I played a lot of these games because there really wasn't anything else coming out. And the last Rayman game, I think, was Rayman Legends. I also played that one. So anyways, this game reminds me of Child of Light, just in a weird way, just real people instead of cartoony kind of graphics. Yeah, you look at the style of this.
Let us stain them.
I find weird though. For one, the characters look kind of weird. Just a little bit. These two characters, they look a little bit weird. Now, they're both thin. The guy looks like a soy boy latte drinking dude who's going to university for like a poetry degree, okay? He looks like that. Okay? That's what the dude looks like. The female, she's like barely attractive. You're like, she might look rough in 5 years. But right now she's looking good enough. We can get it going. And we can possibly procreate with this chick. But, at least she's thin. At least she's mostly attractive. But there's something a little bit uncanny about the way that they both look. Another thing I have to say about this game is that I don't exactly get the sense that this is made by female developers, right? Or female anything, really. I don't get the sense of that. Maybe the music is. I don't know. I could see the music was probably made by a chick, but one thing I have to say about it is that the ambiance, the nature of the world so far, it's a little bit artistic. It's a little bit what is it? It's not performative. There's a better word for this. But it's this weird kind of like erudite showmanship. Like everything is a little bit exaggerated in the nuance of the attacking animations and the movements and how you even activate characters. I guess this game too, by the way, maybe took a little bit of inspiration from the Persona games, specifically Persona 5, a game that I really did not like. I hated Persona 5. Now, there's elements that are good about the game, but I wasn't a huge fan of it. But so far, this game, it's like, this game doesn't feel masculine. When you play, there's a lot of Final Fantasy games. It's a very sophisticated kind of masculine property, Final Fantasy is. There's a lot of masculinity in it, but it's a refined, kind of intellectual masculinity, so it's not like blood and guts, but it's like a spiritual masculinity, right? You can tell that this was made by men, and of course it is. And nowadays we're seeing that Final Fantasy, it's heavily going gay. That's really sad to see. I hate what they did with Final Fantasy 16, but we still see that with Final Fantasy there was a lot that was well done for a long time. And it was made in the nature and the spirit of masculinity. We don't get that anymore today. So, but you can tell when a man makes a game, a masculine man makes a game, you can tell that the characters, they move a certain way, they speak a certain way. But specifically, I'm talking about gameplay here. The enemies look a certain way. The way that you activate your abilities is going to be stylized differently. You're going to have a lot of these nuances and intricacies that really feels like a man made this, right? This is how a man attacks, or this is how a man thinks of attacking enemies, and this is how a woman or something else thinks about attacking enemies in a game. Right now, it's like this game it doesn't feel like it's made for men. If you look here, just look at the way that they're fighting.
Let us stain them.
So if you look at this, it's just so... It's more artistic kind of combat than it is epic, to the point, but awesome moves kind of combat. It's like poetry slam combat, and I literally mean that. I get a weird sense that I don't think women made this. I'm not getting the sense that women made this, but I'm getting the sense that some kind of like university soy latte drinking dude, that he made this, and he definitely grew up in a single mother household. I'm getting heavy feelings that is exactly the type of person that made this game. And it has to be that some of his closest friends are like romance novel writing feminists, but like maybe he's not exactly woke himself. I'm getting like a really weird, like, just everything I'm seeing so far. This feels like a center left production. That's what this feels like. Yeah. I just don't believe a man made this game, or a masculine guy. I don't believe it. It's way too artistic. Everything is made to be way too pretty, way too, what's another good word for this? It's made to be way too pretty and just way too, oh shoot, there's a word for this. It's, like things to be put up as displays, things to be put up as, decoration. I guess it's way too decorous, or it's way too decorative. The combat, the world, a lot of these things, it feels too decorative. There's more emphasis on the decorum than it is the function of specifically the combat or even the characters so far. Even the way that this dude looks like, it's all about his decorum and not his function.
Over there. A hut.
Slow down. We don't know what's inside yet.
But see, like, this is something that's so weird, because whenever a masculine man makes a property, you get lost into the imagery of the world, you get lost into it, and you want to buy into it. Noticeably, when you see a lot of women, they make a lot of stuff. A lot of it is very vague designs, very like androgynous blob designs. A lot of this stuff, it just doesn't have like a soul or spirit to itself. Like this monster that we see, I don't know what idea you get out of that. And I really mean that. There's just, you can look at the design and get some idea out of it, but there's something just lacking from what we're looking at here. It's just not quite it. It's really strange. Something that we see with a lot of female fiction is that it's very derivative, but sometimes it just simply has no possession of the ego, no soul, no spirit behind designs and characters. And with this game, I see a lot of decorum. I see a lot of, oh look, I'm decorating, or I'm personalizing my garden. But there's no soul or spirit to the garden. There's no essence of the ego. And that's what I'm seeing here. I don't see any ego to a lot of this here so far. It just doesn't get me lost in a world. It doesn't get me lost in a design. Go look at Pokemon. Go look at a lot of the Final Fantasy games before recently. Like, go look at even Final Fantasy 15. Go look at a bunch of things out there. Things used to have this essence of spirit, this essence of personality. Things used to be embodied by something greater than its own self. There is a true spiritualism. And of course, where does true spiritualism, where does it come from? It comes from men. Of course, as we know, goes God, men, women, then children. We understand this. That's what we see with a lot of products that are made by specifically men, is that you see something that is embodied by a spirit, by an essence of being. And here, so far, a lot of this, it looks soulless. And it's so weird. I mean, you can go look at a lot of things from like the Metal Gear games, for me, Metal Gear Solid 5. That game, man. Even what was it called? The Stephanopoulos or whatever. The Stephanopoulos, some robot, huge robot that you fight. I think like midway into the game. But like even the robots, everything had a personality. Everything had a soul to it. It's so weird because you can tell when something's made by men. And it just screams out to you. This is possessed by a personality, by some kind of essence of being. And here, we're just not getting that.
This building has a certain melancholy beauty. A lone outpost of humanity nestled amongst the corals.
Yeah, this is what I'm talking about. Poetry slam. All this decorative language, flowery descriptions. The overture of the vase and its curvascular features really shines out to me like a sailor brushing his hand through the ocean's wave. There's nothing exactly wrong with that in its own essence, but it's like, where's the substance? I'm not exactly lost in the world. Like, it's a cool environment, but it's like, this doesn't live to me. This isn't breathing to me. When you look at a game like Final Fantasy 15 or Metal Gear Solid 5 or Red Dead Redemption 2, that feels like we're alive here. We're living here. This is a world that exists and that we are in this present moment here in this place right now. Even Final Fantasy VII Remake, I think, has a terrific sense. That game specifically has a terrific sense of possessing ego and character and soul within every single character. Who was making that game? Who made that game? It was a huge battalion of men. Yet a man, for instance, that made the female characters. Why are the female characters? Why do they have so much personality? Just by looking at them, they're not just beautiful. Jessie, Aerith, Tifa, go down the Scarlet. Look down the list of all the women in Final Fantasy VII Remake. Why do they all look beautiful? Why do they all seem to have this touch, this mark of a spirit, of an ego, of an essence of personality? Because it was made by a man. Then you look at the narrative. Then you look at the dialogue. You look at how everything's made, and it just feels like it's living, it's breathing. Doesn't matter what place you are in the world of Final Fantasy. These are guys that know what they're making. Now with Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, I'm a little bit disappointed on certain elements. The ending had me laughing. I mean, Sephiroth is just flat out gay, bro. The guy's a freaking homosexual. Let's just face it. And like, they're really pushing for a lot of homosexuality. I don't know what happened to those developers. I don't know. Like, I think they like looking at breasts. I think they also like dudes. Okay, I'm just saying it. There's a homosexuality that's really being pushed right now in Final Fantasy VII. I don't know what the frick is going on. And also Final Fantasy 16. I think there was low-key homosexuality. Well, listen, this is enough. No one cares about homosexuality. No one likes homosexuality. Get it out of these products. But I don't know. We're seeing some weirdness from these developers. I don't quite understand it. But, I'm not a fan. And quite frankly, I'm fed up with it. It is degeneracy by the Bible. It is an abomination. There's no other way to look at it. Stop trying to push it in because of modernity. It's not acceptable.
Sailor lost at sea.
Our resident cynic is now a poet.
Wait, I want to listen to that again, the dialogue.
Most of humanity nestled amongst the corals. A sailor lost at sea.
Our resident cynic is now a poet.
Wouldn't expect a Cartesian
She man, I'm a poet because you know it. Because if I were to blow it. Actually, I forget the rest of that. Anyway.
engineer to
No, I'm overlapping how I rhyme the rest of that. It's a whole thing. Anyway. You know, there's something I don't like too about turn-based games, and that's the fact that like an enemy is just sitting around waiting to be attacked to initiate combat. There's something I don't like about that. It needs to be a lot more ever-flowing as you're playing the game. That, you know, it should be that I walk up on an enemy and it suddenly turns around and looks at me and then it suddenly starts the combat. I don't like the black out the screen or transition the screen into combat. I don't like that. It's why open world games, they have a couple of superior aspects to themselves, specifically the fact that you're just, as you play the game, you can just get into combat. Let's think of Witcher 3, right? You're just walking around, you see a certain monster, you just start fighting it. Something I don't like about turn-based games is that it takes you out of the rhythm of the gameplay and the world that you're exploring. And it's just through those scene transitions as you get into a combat. I don't like that. It's a way of breaking up the rhythm and the flow of the world, and it makes you that weird like interruption of the gameplay. It makes you believe that you're not in that world, right? You want to feel like you're in that world and you don't want to be taken out of the immersion of the world. How do you break that immersion? Well, give me scene transitions from exploration into combat. That's a great way to break my immersion. By the way, what do you do when something has value? What do? You critique it. When something has no value, what do? You mock it. So right now, I'm critiquing this because I see good things about this, but there's just certain things that, I don't think it's a good design decision, or I think these things are lacking, and I think that they could absolutely improve on what they're doing, or other developers can look at these critiques, and they need to, and be like, okay, this is how we improve, because we've got games that are truly great. There are games out there, not anymore today, but there used to be a lot of games that came out and they were truly wonderful creations. We don't get that a lot anymore, but like, it's not hard to make something that's absolutely excellent as a developer. I don't care about imperfections, but there are areas that you can absolutely make something more refined, okay? And that's what we're talking about here. We got to figure it out for any game that comes out. Because at the end of the day, is it something that's worthwhile for you to put your money into? Is this something that I can see myself playing until completion? Can I see that happening? And if I can't see that happening, well, then maybe the product needs a little bit of improvements. And we're speaking from the mindset of not being too critical, because obviously there's retards out there who love to be way too critical of things, and they will go out of their way to hate on a product just because, I mean, they have way too many expectations, and it just gets to a point where it's like, okay, we get it. You wish you made the game. You know, some people, they can't look at it from someone else made the game. Just, you need to criticize the elements that matter. And so we just need to criticize what matters here. Well, for as much as that matters.
This should help.
Again, there's something soulless to this. Go look at a lot of older games. They had a lot of soul. And I do not get that. It's way too decorative, the world. It's not functional. It's not living. It's not breathing. There's no ego here. There's no spirit. There's no soul. And I really do. I have an issue with that.
Watch out!
You're right.
It only attacks when...
It's coming.
Man, the villain design is just not that good. Or enemy design. I mean, there's other games, they don't really have great enemy designs necessarily, but like, even Near Automata, like I'm thinking of something that's similar to this, and you could say like Near Automata has similar enemy designs to this game. There's still a soul and a spirit behind all of the characters in the world, despite how nihilistic that game is in its subject matter. And there's just something about this, it just doesn't mean anything to me when I'm looking at it. It really feels soulless. It's really strange. Like, I don't think the ideas behind this game, I think the ideas behind this game is like a decoration piece to the lead designers and developers. I don't think that this is a living idea to themselves. And if anything, if you want something to be a living idea to yourself, it typically has to have an essence of nationalism, something about your race, your people. It has to be imbued within it. It has to resemble, there has to be a spirit of your society, of your culture, and whatever it is that you're making. And I think right here, I don't know, what is this supposed to represent? Is this French? It doesn't feel exactly French to me, but maybe some elements are supposed to be French. I don't know. There's just something that's not alive and living here, and that's my biggest issue. And the characters could look better. They look like stock characters. And some of the characters, even though they're all largely white, there's something racially androgynous to them all, which I absolutely hate. And I don't really get a sense of that existential persona out of these characters that is so important. When you look at a lot of older games and characters from older games, everyone was personified by something. And you can tell that they came from a specific background, from the region, from the world of that game, of the fictional piece that you are experiencing. A great example is Final Fantasy 15. Look at Ignis, look at Gladius, look at Pronto, and look at Noctis. Look at Arden, who's the villain of the game. Look at a lot of these characters. They all look like they come from a certain culture, a certain background. Even if they're somewhat different from each other, like maybe one character kind of looks like he comes from Roman blood. Maybe another character like Gladius. Maybe you can say Gladius might be Roman or Croatian or you could say something like that. And maybe Ignis, you could say he looks like he's a little bit, I don't know, maybe French, or he has kind of angular features. Maybe British. I would say like maybe Norwegian. I don't know. But right, you get the idea. These are Anglo-Saxon guys. You get the sense that they come from these different backgrounds. Noctis, he kind of looks a little bit like he's a weird form. He looks like he's 75% of Anglo blood, and then when he's younger in the game, he looks a little bit more Japanese, like 25% Japanese. That's what you get from him when you look at him. But when he's older in the game, he definitely looks like he's a white dude. You know, he looks like, he kind of looks like an American guy, kind of, or I'm trying to think of like another background that he might look like. I mean, maybe English. Yeah, he might just be English, but anyway, you get the sense of who are these guys? What is their background? Who do they come from? And they're all personified differently from one another, and you get that feeling. You get that sense from the world and the people, and you can tell that there's a shared kind of background and heritage for these characters. Well, here I don't know what I get from the characters. You know what? Another good example actually is Devil May Cry 5. When that game came out, a lot of the characters, they all have a rough, they look different from each other, but there's a rough, even despite their differences, there's a rough symmetry behind every single character and what they look like. Right here in this game, I don't really know who are these characters, where do they come from. Just by looking at what they look like, you don't really know what they stand for. In fact, it doesn't look like they stand for anything. And this is something you will see in a lot of female fiction. Everything's more about the decorum. It's about how do you make yourself an accessory, not as a living, embodied being. Okay? This is something that you get in a lot of male fiction, is the essence of spirit, the essence of ego. That's what you get. And you can see that in a lot of fiction that's made by men. You're going to get a lot of characters. Just by looking at them, you can tell that's who they are. It's just what they are. And then you look at the clothing they wear, and that also tells a story. Who the character is, what they look like, it tells you a story. And then what they're wearing also tells you a story. Right here, I don't get a story out of what I'm looking at.
En garde!
Something about a lot of female-made products is that you're just throwing a lot of things at the screen. There's no conceptual structure to the world that you're experiencing or that you are observing. Whenever something's made by a man, it's always a conceptual framework. There's a root. It's like, okay, what is the root? Okay, Wild West. Okay, this is kind of what a dude in the Wild West would look like, right? Like when we're thinking of a game like Evil West, right? Jesse Rentier. And then you look at Edgar Gravenson, and all these characters, they all have a root to who the character is, what they look like, and the world to which they embody. That's what you see. Whenever you see something that's made by women, it's always a hodgepodge of many things. And typically, a lot of it is derivative. And if it's not derivative, it just has no essence, has no framework. There's no scaffolding, and without a scaffolding, you can't build the structure. And that's what we see a lot of, is a lot of androgyny and a lot of relativism in just even the way that characters look. But see, this is not a world I want to get lost into. Like, I appreciate what this is. The music sounds pretty good, and there's elements of how everything's designed. I like it. Like, I appreciate it for what it is, and how they're trying to experiment with this artistic style. It's just, for someone like me, this is not the kind of world I want to get lost into. I want to get lost into Metal Gear Solid 5. I want to get lost in The Witcher 3. I want to get lost in Final Fantasy 15. I want to get lost. There's another game that Red Dead Redemption 2 was a great game. There's another world. I liked Final Fantasy 7 Remake, even if I have some criticisms, especially the homosexuality. Overall, I like it. There's something else I'm forgetting right now. Something that didn't really turn out that great, but I liked the idea that went in behind it. Oh shoot, it's on the tip of my tongue, man. But anyways, there's some creative products. They create a world that you really want to be a part of, that you really see, and you're amazed by it. I mean, for a long time, a lot of men, they loved what was Tolkien. The world of Lord of the Rings was cool. And it was sophisticated, but cool. And it was masculine. It was a sophisticated masculine that had the right amount of savagery, right? You're going to war, you're fighting these beasts, and you're fighting the orcs and all that. And then Star Wars is another great world that you can get lost into. You see it and you want to be a part of it, that kind of thing. Here, I don't get that sense at all. This is what I'm talking about, man. I mean, this is just like this is supposed to feel like it's just a bunch of things going on, right? If you look at the kind of experiences that women seek out, right? Like they'll go to techno raves and stuff like that. Women go places where it's all a passing experience. What you're doing does not mean anything for history. It doesn't mean anything for your people, for your fellow mankind, for your fellow faith, right? We as Christian men, we as a Christian society, we as a certain racial background, there's none of that. A lot of the things, especially nowadays, that you see that women are most possessed by, it's always something random that's a passing allure, right? So they'll go to raves, they'll go to certain concerts. They always, and especially partying, you'll always notice that women, they go after things that are very, what's the right term for this? These are very superficial, very... Anyway, I forget the term for it. Literally, if I were not recording, I would totally remember what the word is, but here I just forget. But they always go for things that are just very passing, and they don't have long-term value. These are superficial things that are ultimately they're fads, and you experience it with no purpose left after you do whatever it is. You know, like, and this is something to remember, is that when you look at what men do, they will enterprise. When they look at when they interact with the world, they enterprise. When women interact with the world, they either exploit, they plunder the resources or whatever else, and or they simply derive from the value and then they move on, and that's it. So, right, they go to a concert. They're not the one that's really making anything of value in the concert, but they just go to a concert to experience it, go through the dopamine, go through the feels, and then they move on. And they just do something else vacuous with their life. When you look at what a man does, right, they fight for something. They organize for something. It has to be a purpose. It has to be a cause. When it's not a purpose, when it's not a cause, they become destitute. They become wanderless. They ultimately become in some way irreverent about or despondent about what they're doing or what surrounds them. That's what you see. And right now with this game, I don't know why they fought this monster. I don't know what the monster even represents. I don't know what they represent. When you see, and this is the thing, you see a lot of other properties, you can just see the characters and you understand what drives them. Just by looking at them, just by looking at the smirk on their face, you're like, oh, I know this guy and I know what he's about. You don't get that here. I don't get the sense of what these characters are about, and I don't know what they're doing, and I don't know why this matters. This lacks a spirit, and this lacks a soul.
Gustav, wait!
Why?
It seems peaceful.
Oh, it's peaceful. This was made by women, or soy boy men, and I'm getting the sense this was made by soy boy men. By the way, hold up.
Wait!
Hey girl, what's up? She's definitely attractive. And she's definitely not completely flat-chested. I don't know how big her boobs are, but she is attractive.
It seems peaceful. As long as we don't touch the flowers.
Yeah, let's not get too sentimental. It's still a painter's creation.
She's definitely flat-chested. What's up? The beautiful white woman. She met. Oh my gosh, this was made by soy boy men, which there's a good number of them now in these industries. We've got a couple of directors for movies who make a lot of soy boy crap. Or this was made by women. There's elements I can tell are not made by women, but like the maybe the narrative director is a woman, because just the way that this is going here, I don't believe a man freaking made this, bro. This is not how men do things. This feels really homosexual. That's right. That's what a man does. He shoots at the abomination.
Damn, Maya, what was that?
Female decision making, my friend. This is why you only have fighting squadrons of men. Because you end up having moments like this, where the freaking female's trying to tame the bear, because for some reason she thinks that she can trust the bear more than she can trust you. And you know better, and you're gonna shoot the bear. But she's like, I can tame it. If I just spread my legs for the bear, I can tame it. No, that's not what's going to happen. Stop. What are you doing?
Familiar somehow.
Oh my gosh. See, this is a thing about women. They love witchcraft. They love the freaking, they love like druids and all of that stuff. Like this weird, like nonsensical magical thinking. They love that freaking crap. There's no tether to reality by it. And, well, this chick right here, her character is representing that,
Damn, Maya, what was that?
very truthfully.
It felt familiar somehow.
What the frick? Man, she has a nice rack. What is up?
Gustav, we
Nice BMI.
won't understand what's going on if we kill everything that moves.
The Gestrel village must be ahead.
I don't know what it is with a lot of modern games, but there's something really uncanny about the voice syncing to the characters when they speak, and I don't know why. It really does. It feels disembodied. In the past, there's a lot of games I can think of where characters speak and it doesn't feel disembodied, but I've been getting this with a lot of recent games so far that have been coming out recently. It just really feels disembodied when a character speaks. I think Black Myth Wukong was alright. When characters speak in that, well, actually, never mind. It's because of they poured it over, right? The game's made in Chinese, and then they dubbed it for English, so of course it's going to look weird. If you pay attention to Sun Wukong talking in the game, it looks terrible if you're listening in English because, love of God, the game was made for Chinese, so of course you're going to have that problem. But I'm talking about English games here. Even they have a lot of weird disembodied elements. It's really strange.
You know what Neverons are capable of.
She'll be fine.
Golly, I can't that right there. This masculine woman behavior right there. I cannot stand it.
She'll be fine.
Yeah, I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of just... Yeah. Okay, hold up. You know, they're trying, and I see what they're making, and I can respect what they're making, but so far, from everything I've seen, like, okay, we've got a lot of attractive women in this game. I've seen that already, and I like that for what it is. I just don't know exactly what we're going to be getting with this game. I don't really get the sense that this game is going to be really that impressive, but at least this game doesn't look woke. I think the most wokeness I mean, who knows, right? Now we see something with these companies where they're not showing you all the diversity at the start, or they're not showing, I mean, Jedi Survivor, you don't see any diversity until you're 2 hours into the game. Then they litter the game with diversity. So, right, they want the freaking white male audience. They want them to sit there and be like, oh, wow, I watched the first 2 hours of Jedi Survivor. I just see a white dude and a guy that looks like he's white. He's not white, but he looks like he's white. You know, he looks like a white dude bro, even though he's not white. I think he's like, he looks like a mixed Indian guy, and I think that is what he is, by the way. The actor for Bode in Jedi Survivor. Anyway, I don't know if they're going to do a bait and switch. A lot of companies right now are doing bait and switches where it's like, hey, look, a bunch of white people. And then you get into the game. It's like, oh, here's a bunch of other random black, random, all the other races as well. And you're like, come on, man. Like, just give us a white person's game. Just do it. Okay, love of God. You know, if you want to make a game like Deathloop or whatever, then do it. But like, there's developers for that. Let's just make white people games, love of God. So far this game looks like it's white people stuff, doing white people things. It feels heavily emasculated though. It feels like this is somewhat made for white women who they don't like ugly women, but you know, I get some sense of feminism from this. I think the most wokeness we're going to see out of this game is feminism. And that is something that is a huge problem. Get this out of freaking games. Get this out of our freaking stories. Enough with the freaking feminism. No one likes it. It's been enough. It's just tiring, right? But outside of that, I don't see a lot of multiculturalism being pushed here. And it seems like to me that the game has a potential to be all right. I just don't know how much I really like what I'm seeing for myself personally, because this isn't like a lot of the games that I've mentioned. It's not like The Witcher. It's not like a lot of games that you can tell it's made for men and it's like, wow, this is great. This was made for men. Beautiful women, masculine dudes. I mean, geez, dude, Solid Snake is one of the coolest characters in all, and also Geralt of Rivia, of course, but like Solid Snake is one of the coolest masculine characters in all of gaming. He is just a freaking cool dude. All right, Metal Gear Solid 5, Snake in that game, he was freaking awesome in that game. I mean, it's just, and I miss Metal Gear. Kojima now, what he's doing with Death Stranding, it just sucks, okay? Let's just face it. Everything that they're doing with that game is not Metal Gear, and I miss what Metal Gear was. That was so cool, but, you know, I don't know. How long are we gonna have to wait for... Imagine we got a proper Lovecraftian Conan series. Imagine we got a Conan game. Buff dude, sexy, naked women, slaying these awesome monsters, you know, stuff that has to do with ancient civilizations, all that stuff, right? Imagine we get a true and proper Conan game that's not made where it's derivative of other games. No, it's a proper RPG. It's fun. It's mostly unique as a game, but it's also following Conan. And we've got good writers, masculine dudes wrote for this game. Imagine that, bro. It'd be freaking awesome. Of course, I don't know when we're going to get that because, right, a lot of the modern studios, they're like, oh, that's too problematic if we make a true, through and through, Conan the Barbarian game. But it would be freaking awesome, man. It would be freaking awesome. And I'm waiting for the day that we actually get another game that's made for men. You know, Stellar Blade was a great game because it had sexy women. The women were made for men to look at, and that's great. But the game still lacked a lot in story, and also, you know, I don't like seeing women on battlefields. I don't like seeing women getting slaughtered. You know, I like looking at sexy women following a main male character, right? That whole thing. Like we saw with Metal Gear Solid 5. We had Quiet, who's some hot chick who's following around Snake, basically. You know, you can throw her into your party and all that. But, you know, in the end, it's very clear that the man is better than the woman. There's a part in the game where Quiet, she needs to be saved by Snake and not the other way around. It's very clear. She's about to be, you know, forced upon by a guard. And it's just like, we don't get that, right? Nowadays, it has to be that the men and the women are equal. No, enough with this crap. I don't care that the women are fighting around the men, but it has to be clear that the men, those are the people that you lean on. Sorry, those are the guys that you lean on in the world. And that there's no idea that the woman can ever win a fight against a man. I'm so sick and tired of this idea that women can win wars, that they can win fights against men. It's like, love of God, let's start doing it. I want to start seeing feminists enter the UFC. I want to see a roided out female. I want to see her fight a freaking man in the freaking octagon. I want to freaking see it because we know what would happen. We know she would be decimated. Enough with feminism. I'm freaking fed up with it. Let's just let men and women be men and women. Let's allow them to be problematic. Allow men to freaking touch women and allow women to sexualize themselves. Enough of this freaking pussification of everything. I'm so sick and tired of it. I want to see the objectification of women again, and I want to see dudes being freaking problematic freaking guys again, right? They're killing bad guys. They're killing just random beasts, random monsters. I want to see this freaking stuff again. I'm fed up. And right now, this game, so far, just with what I'm seeing, I appreciate what it is. I'm far more interested in this game than I am with a lot of other things coming out. But what I can tell you is I'm still disappointed in what I'm seeing because it's clear that this is made for women more than it is made for men.